Good morning to you. It's 7 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, the 2nd of March. March means we've just hit autumn or the fall here in New South Wales. As I did last time bikepacking, it's just an overnighter and I've left my house and I'm going directly north. Not northwest like last time, directly north. And I'm out of breath, I'm unfit. And it's going to be an out and back, and I'm really excited about what I've got to show you. So I hope when we get there that we all enjoy it. So let's get pedaling. Okay, so I get up early, leave the house at 7. Not only did I start going the right way, my ride with GPS told me it was the wrong way, so I thought, I must be going the other direction. Turned around. I don't know what it's doing. This isn't the first time it's got confused around here. Now I've got to ride all the way back to where I was. It's 8 o'clock now and I'm just back where I was an hour ago. I'm really upset with myself. Anyway, I better push on. What a lovely new little eatery here. I didn't see it last time I come to Gindra. So I got myself a soya latte and a little passion fruit slice. Got some calories into me, so I'm going to try and drink the coffee while I'm riding. We'll see how that goes. By now I'd stopped beating myself up about going the wrong way at the start of the ride. It really did upset me. But now I was enjoying riding these beautifully quiet country lanes. Last time I rode in December, everywhere was lush and green. 3 months on and the land is parched. The creeks have run dry. Some of the dams were dry like this one and others were very low. There was very little traffic on this road, which made it all that much better, but there was a 3/4 headwind coming from my left. The sun was slow at burning through the clouds. It was very hot and sticky, but that nasty headwind was a double-edged sword because although I was fighting against it, it was keeping me nice and cool. We have a little bit of a descent. It's quite a headwind, but this is the first descent that is gravity is outweighing the headwind, which is good.
Meters, duration 2 hours 50 minutes.
So just riding through the town of Walla Walla. I've never been here before. It's a lovely little town. It looks like there's lots of grain silos around here. What's it called? The Walla Food Mill. So I've just stopped here. Nice little garden terrace. And then there's a front veranda. I've got a lovely cup of English breakfast tea because I'm a lady, don't you know? I was so lucky riding here because it was clouded over, very overcast, but now it's about 11:30. The sun has all burnt away the clouds, and it's all going to get a little bit harder because I have another 10-15 kilometers to go.
The wrong ground,
just under there.
That's all you want to leave?
I think so, because I'm just worried in case I need something. I'll probably be a few hours. Will you be, what time do you go to bed?
Town, you know where
Oh
it is.
yeah, leave it there, that's fine. No one's going to pinch it, are they? I don't think. Anyway, I'll see you later. Thanks, V.
What a lovely little town Walla Walla looks. We'll be returning there later. Veronica has kept my tent. That reduces the weight I'm carrying by 2.5 kilos. And I'm just off on a little jaunt, and we'll go back to that sports field to camp tonight. I have a great little story for you today. Most Australians probably won't find it interesting because they'll know it anyway. But for those who aren't Australian, I hope you find it really interesting because I was just so excited about this trip. So where I'm heading right now is significant to the story I'm about to tell you. First of all, we need a little bit of history. As you may know, Australia was populated by the Aborigines some 60,000 years ago, but in the late 1770s it was colonised by the British. We hear quite a lot about how badly the British treated the Aborigines, but we don't hear much about how they treated their own. They shipped over 160,000 criminals from the UK to Australia over an 80-year period. In Britain, rape and murder were punishable by death, so a lot of the convicts sent over to Australia were being punished for quite trivial crimes in some cases of petty theft, robbery, assault, fraud and similar crimes. They were transported in squalid conditions. Hundreds died from cholera, typhoid and such diseases on the journey. By the time they arrived in Australia, most were too sick to be able to carry out the hard labour that had been set aside for them to help build the colony. Over the years, prisoners were freed, prisoners escaped. Some prisoners that were freed were given land and high-profile positions, but I can't express enough how tough life was. The authorities were brutal and life was very hard, so corruption was rife. Of the escaped prisoners, and perhaps the sons of these escaped prisoners over the decades, they would often become outlaws, or bushrangers as they are called in Australia. These are men who use the dense bush to operate undetected in the business of stealing horses, cattle, thieving and highway robbery, and they had an intense hatred of the authorities, possibly with good reason. Some that chose to work for a living would work on vast cattle stations. The workers weren't treated well by the rich landowners' station masters. This mistreatment of the peasants generated resentment, and justifiably. The underworld fraternity that was the Bushrangers roamed the Australian lands for over 100 years. They were feared by the general populace and they were hunted down by the authorities. We look back on them now perhaps as slightly lovable rogues. That isn't quite the case. They were brutal, but they did have a conscience and they did try and look after the peasants. One of the last bushrangers is legendary. You may have heard of him, Ned Kelly, mooted to be the Australian Robin Hood, hung for his crimes in the late 1880s. But before Ned came along, there was another less well-known bushranger, and that's who my story is going to be about today. And his name was Dan Morgan. The illegitimate son of poor Irish parents was born in 1830, southwest of Sydney. He was given the name John Owen at birth, but over the years went by many aliases. Dan Morgan, the one that stuck. His childhood years set the scene for how his life was to pan out. Even as a child, he was a misfit and a thief. As he went into adulthood, he worked as a stockman and became an accomplished horseman, bushman, and station hand. But Dan wanted more. When the gold rush came in 1850, he turned his hand to gold prospecting, but soon learned it wasn't a lucrative business to be in. For someone that knows about the bush, horses, cattle stations, what better profession could he have turned his hand to than becoming a bushranger? What prompted Dan to become an outlaw, we'll never know, but he was an outlaw mostly with a conscience. He tried to rob from the rich and did sometimes give to the poor, but it didn't always pan out like that. His criminal activity escalated in his mid-20s. Often he was carrying out armed highway robbery, and he was going by the alias, most originally, of John Smith. He didn't get away with his crime spree for long, and he was sentenced to 12 years hard labour. In fact, sentenced by the same judge that would some 25 years later sentence Ned Kelly to hang. Dan was released a whopping 6 years early for good behaviour, but his bond stated he had to go and live in the town of Yakandanda in the state of Victoria, further south than he'd lived before. Unfortunately, whilst in Yakandanda, he couldn't find a job, and he was quite humiliated by being turned down work he was capable of doing just because of his criminal past. He also stopped reporting to the authorities, and from then decided to return to his bushranger ways. Now Dan made a mistake. He made the mistake of robbing cattle stations run by squatters. Squatters were people running cattle stations illegally. Dan robbed many cattle stations out west near Wangaratta, and being criminals themselves, the squatters didn't take it lying down. So they pursued him, shot and wounded him. Dan hightailed it up north to the town of Wagga Wagga, where he recovered from his injuries. While his wounds were healing, he met a man of the same ilk as himself, and together they terrorised the area south of Wagga Wagga, carrying out cattle station robberies and highway robbery. They were a formidable pair. They moved stealthily through the bush and avoided detection by the police.
I've just stopped here in the shade. It's quite warm now. I can't tell the temperature because my gauge has run out of battery juice. But I'm guessing high 20s, low 30s. I was hoping to be able to tell you this story as I was riding. I hope you're enjoying it so far. Alas, the wind is too much. I thought it best to narrate it in case you can't hear it. I've just stopped in the shade to have a little rest and a drink. I've got 5 more kilometres to go to my destination. I'm very excited. I can't wait till I get there. I hope it's as good as I think it's going to be. The story will explain it all, why I'm going there. I can't wait. Just have a drink and then get on.
I don't know if you can see them, but for this whole ride I've been getting showered with these cricket-like creatures. They're very strange. They've got pointy heads and googly eyes. They're not a normal cricket. And for the whole ride, they've been jumping at me and hitting me. I'm not sure if they're trying to get out of the way and the wind blows them on me, or whether they just want to jump on me.
Okay folks, I've got a uphill shadeless section and I've cracked out the Nink umbrella to give me some shade. So I'm going to nincompoop my way up this hill, which won't look like a hill at all on GoPro. Off we go. Why do you think we're here? This is called Morgan's Lookout. And guess what? And this is why I'm so excited. This was Dan Mad Dog Morgan's hideout slash lookout. He could see 360 degrees around the bush. And this is where they cooked up all their dirty deeds, I expect. And they would come up here, sometimes to hide, sometimes to scout, check what was going on. Perhaps there was some cattle being driven, perhaps there was some coaches going by that they could rob. A lot of this land is very low lying and it's swamp. Over here is gum swamp. So that's looking east. Over here is Gerodgery. I've just come from the town of Walla Walla. Jindra in this direction. Beyond that will be Albury, Burren Buttock, where I bike packed in December. To the west we have Goombargana Hill, Walbundry over here, more swampland. All this is swampland over here. The town of Urana this way, looking north. And Lockhart is over here, and the Rock Nature Reserve. I do intend to go to the Rock one day. And over here is swampland, the Doodlecoma Swamp Nature Reserve. And then back to the town of Henty.
Being on these windswept granite boulders that sit upon this hill conjured up pictures of Dan 150 years ago, perhaps cooking some bush tucker over a fire with his accomplice while they plotted their next robbery.
I sat down to have something to eat here and along came a guy called Campbell who'd just come to look at the lookout, and we sat and talked probably for 2 hours. He's not old like me, he's quite young, but yeah, we had a good talk, mainly about what do you believe in the media nowadays, because it's quite scary knowing what to believe. So that's Campbell just going off. I'm just going to get some photos and then I'm going to get going. The wind has picked up. I'm hoping it's behind me.
It was around 6 o'clock in the evening by now. I had 10 kilometres to ride back to my camp. Some of the road was in the open sun. Other areas I was totally shaded by the beautiful trees. They're so important. I hope the farmers keep planting trees because the wildlife needs them, and so do the farm animals. you, it had been a long, hot 10 kilometres with very little cover from the blazing sun. I was so glad when I got back into the shaded areas. Just coming up to Petrie's Creek here is a walk-in / cycle path to my left. It runs along the left-hand side of the road for a while. Then it crosses over onto the right-hand side of the road. It's paved and it's mostly shaded. Now, Walla Walla was settled in the late 1860s, and it was settled by Germans. And there's still a strong German influence in the town. If you look at some of the names, Leischke, I think that's how you pronounce it, is the local Holden dealer. And in fact, at the beginning of this cycle path is a picnic area provided by the Leischke family with a small memorial stone to their family. Also, there's the largest Zion Lutheran church in New South Wales in the small town of Walla Walla, seating 600. A point of interest in Walla Walla is this water tower. It was painted by Damien Mitchell, and it depicts 7 different species that are native to the Walla Walla swamp. The Walla Walla swamp was to my left as I was riding back to Walla Walla, and really I should have taken out time to go and visit, although I didn't have appropriate gear with me to go and walk through the swamp. Apparently the water comes and goes, not only depending on time of year, but depending on the year and how much rainfall there is. Reading up on it, it sounds like a very interesting place to visit, so I think I'll make a special effort to try and get out there and go for a hike. But I will warn you, at the sports ground 2 kilometres away from the swamp, I got some nasty mozzie bites, so I think if you go to the swamp, be prepared with some repellent.
Hello. Yeah, sun was a bit brutal on the way back.
Would you like a chair?
No, I'm fine, thanks. I need to get my tent up and some food in me.
Was the place you went Morgan's Lookout?
Morgan's Lookout, yeah, so that's Dan Mad Dog Morgan.
All right.
Yeah, it's only 10 kilometres up the road. Oh, thanks for looking after my tent. That made it a bit easier. Whew, probably wouldn't have made it if I'd have took that.
Happy to help. Can you get it out?
Yeah, I could get it, I think. It's just getting on for 8 o'clock. I've settled in to the campsite. I'm very near other people, so I probably won't be filming or talking much, which may please you. The sun is setting to my right. There's lots of bird song and lots of birds about, so that's nice. It's nice and peaceful. This is the Walla Walla sports ground. It's $7.50 a night for an unpowered site, $15 for a powered site. There's a toilet and shower and a hand basin with hot water, and there's drinking water. So I was going to continue my story about Mad Dog. So until now, Mad Dog's crimes were restricted to theft and perhaps a little bit of violence, but that came to an end in 1864. By now he was around 30 years old when he shot and killed a station hand at Round Hill Station, and he shot and wounded the station master. A peculiarity with Mad Dog was that he had terrible mood swings. Often, as in the case when he shot the station master, he wounded him rather than kill him because he had children and his wife was pleading for his life. Now, strangely, he shot him through the hand and he sent one of the farm hands off to go and get help, and then he panicked and thought the farmhand may come back with the police, So he chased after him on his horse and he shot him in the back and killed him. But he did tend to the injury he'd caused to the station master. Very strange. It's as though he felt very guilty, and you wonder why he actually did it. He then went on to kill a policeman. That was Sergeant David McGinnity, who had been tracking him down. So a reward was put on his head of $1,000, which was a lot of money back then. And I guess with that lookout on those big granite boulders, he knew where the police were at all times. Sometimes he'd be a bit of a Robin Hood character, and he would pick on the station masters that were quite cruel to the workers, and he would often make them give the farmhands alcohol, food and money at gunpoint. If you watch my bikepacking video in December, I camped at the sports ground in Buttock, and Mad Dog actually made the station master pay his workers $30 each, which was probably a lot of money back then in the 1800s. His Robin Hood kindness to the poorer people was interspersed with random violence and terrible mood swings, and that's why they called him Mad Dog. Mad Dog's accomplice was eventually killed by police in a gun battle. Mad Dog hid out in the swampy flatlands. We saw some of those from the lookout. While he was hiding out in the swamp, the police were out with a posse, hot on his tail. But Mad Dog outsmarted them, could see where they were, so he crept up on their camp and he shot dead the senior sergeant. He was an imposing figure. He was 5'10", which was quite big for then, and he had a long black beard. He was increasingly using firearms in his crimes now. So basically he was a highwayman by now, and he was quite fond of holding up the stagecoach travelling to Albury. In fact, anyone who crossed his path he would thieve from. So his benevolent side didn't always show. He made his way back over the border into Victoria, and he wanted to hunt down the two men that had shot and wounded him some 4 years earlier. He went to their ranch, but they weren't in. So he destroyed some property and he stole from them. He went off back into the bush and he bumped into a dairy farm owner. And for some reason, foolishly, the dairy farmer gained Mad Dog's trust. And that was to lead to his downfall. He foolishly told the dairy farmer that he was going to rob the Glen Rowan Hotel. In fact, that was where Ned Kelly had his last stand. The dairyman dobbed him in, and so he fled, and he actually got lost in the bush. And he happened upon a station master, and at gunpoint he made the station master take him to his ranch, and Mad Dog spent the evening with the station master and his family. He had dinner, he slept overnight.
Dan was holding the Pajero station at gunpoint, but one member of the household staff managed to trick him under the pretence of going to look after a sick child. She ran to a nearby house and raised the alarm. The police got together a posse and arrived at the Pajero ranch the next morning. Just as Dan was going to steal a horse and ride off, one of the farmhands, a John Wendlam, shot Dan in the back, shattered his spine. He was to die later that day, Sunday, the 9th of April, 1865, at only 34 years old.
His body was decapitated, his brain was used for medical science, and his remains were buried in Wangaratta. And that is the sad and sorry tale of Dan Mad Dog Morgan.
The bush may look different to how it did in Dan Mad Dog Morgan's day, but this would have been the sunset he saw many a time, filmed from the top of the granite rocks at Dan's lookout. Morning. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. I've got to be quiet, everyone's asleep. It's a beautiful night sky, lots of stars. It's gorgeous. I slept really well, although I feel quite tired. So I need to hurry up, have a coffee, toast, no hanging about like I usually do, and get out of here as soon as daylight hits. Because it's going to be low 30s today, and if the sky's clear and I've got 40 odd kilometres, I'm going to be in trouble. So I need to go ASAP. Catch you later. I've been buying these Robert Tim's coffee bags. This is the Gold Columbia one, and they're not too expensive, and they make bloody good coffee quickly and cleanly, so I'd recommend them. Breakfast, raisin toast, coffee, then I'm packing up, no hanging around. Well, that's the idea. Okay for me, haven't done bad. 7:08 and I'm leaving the campground. I had to be really quiet and careful because a man in a caravan was really pissy with me. He thinks I camped too close to him, I guess. Yeah, really pissy. So I've had to be extra quiet the whole time I've been here. But I obviously could have gone somewhere else, but I wasn't really thinking straight after that exhausting ride. Anyway, let's get going home. I'm going to go back the way I came because I think it's going to be blue sky straight away, so it's going to half kill me anyway. I had plotted 2 other routes, one via Burrumbuttock, but that was nearly 50 kilometres, and one via Georgery, which was 60 kilometres. I'm just going to take the 45 kilometres straight home the way I came. Let's get going. This is where I ate yesterday, the Walla food mill. Nice and friendly staff. Look at this office building designed to look like a silo. Very nice.
It's about 8:30. The sun is rising over there, and in Australia, I never knew this till I moved here, the sun tracks north.
I was really enjoying being up what is early for me, but the sun was already getting hot, even though it was very low in the sky. So I had to make a pit stop to get my shorts on, to put sun cream on, and get my sun hat and sun gloves on.
I got 3 pairs of these semi-fingerless sun gloves from Amazon. You get 3 pairs for about a tenner. So I've got some in my car for when I'm driving, and they're okay. They're not too warm. I thought they'd be, I thought they'd be sort of a bit sweaty, but they're not at all. It's they've got perforations in them here on the palm. So, because my hands and wrists were getting sunburnt. I've done my legs because they got sunburnt yesterday. It's a big long climb out of Walla Walla. Yesterday I got no benefit because I had a 3/4 headwind. Today, at the moment, there is no wind and it's uphill. So lose-lose situation. I'm going to conserve energy and walk.
Ba ba black sheep, have you any wool? No.
Things you find on the roadside. I've won a tape measure. It's extra weight to carry, but that will come in handy at home. It's 11 o'clock, bang on, and it took me 4 hours to get home. Wouldn't we all just love a tailwind just once in a while? Anyway, I had a fantastic overnighter. I really enjoyed it. I was so excited after reading up on Mad Dog Morgan. I was really excited to get to the lookout. So Walla Walla, a small farming town. It's in the sort of wheat belt, I suppose, with those massive silos. It must be pretty central in the wheat belt around here anyway. Lovely little town. I shall be back there. In fact, I might go out there tonight in my car up to the lookout and catch the sunset. Anyway, I've just had such a fantastic time. The New South Wales rural scenery is lovely. I really do enjoy riding through that. As much as I tried to catch the birds on camera, I just couldn't. So many kookaburras, probably 20 kookaburras. Caught one in Jindra, I think, on film, and that was about it. Some coloured birds, couldn't catch them. Some galahs, couldn't catch them. Some superb fairy wrens, couldn't catch them. They were much more wary of humans than they are around here. I guess because they shoot a lot out in the rural areas. And do you know what? The only wildlife I saw were birds and one fox, and nothing, no sight of a kangaroo at all. If you want an overnighter from Albury, that's a good one to do. I'm back at work tomorrow, so I wanted to get home early. I didn't want to be exhausted and kill myself in the sun. So I think I did better health-wise today. No heat exhaustion, very few cramps. I was slightly lighter. I didn't bring my solar charger. I don't need it for overnighters. I usually hang the solar charger off my big backpack. So I didn't bring the big backpack as I wasn't bringing the solar charger. I took a small one. And there was a few bits and pieces I didn't bring. So perhaps I'm, I don't know, 3 kilos lighter. Still, the bike is very heavy. It's a mountain bike and it's got mountain bike tyres. Perhaps if I got some tyres that rolled easier, it might help. So I'm not exhausted. I don't need an afternoon nap. So I can do my chores, do my food shopping, back to work tomorrow. If you enjoyed this video or got anything from it, it would be great if you hit the like button and give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, it would be great, and I would much appreciate it if you would, or even at least thought about it. I have more subscribers now, but I'm still not monetized because there's lots of hoops you have to jump through. And I don't think I ever will get monetized. And that doesn't matter because I absolutely love making these films. I know the films aren't of great quality, but I love making them, just giving you my little story. And I really, really enjoy it. So thank you so much for watching. I shall go now, get these sweaty clothes off and have a shower. So until next time, it's goodbye for now.
Apprenons le cha-cha-cha.
Le cha-cha-cha d'origine cubaine est un mambo que l'on joue sur un rythme lent. Nous commençons par l'étude du pas de base, le va-et-vient. Le va-et-vient.
Apprenons le cha-cha-cha. Apprenons le cha-cha-cha. Le cha-cha-cha. Le cha-cha-cha. Le cha-cha-cha. Le cha-cha-cha. Apprenons le cha-cha.